Philadelphia Eagles select Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.
What is up, everybody? What is going on? Welcome to Party on Broad. It is Eagles Football Wednesday. Today, we are breaking down and getting ready for the NFL Draft. We are less than 1 month away. We've got an amazing guest to help break it down. Joining me, as always, my man, Rob, at Philly_Madness. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, man. Listen, Dives, you know I love talking Birds, Sixers with you, but I got to be honest. I'm pumped to be talking with Dylan, man. I feel like I haven't seen this man in a year, and I am super pumped that we get to talk Birds because I know we normally agree on a lot of things, and I'm curious where we're going to stand on all these issues here today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've got the man from DSM Media. He is the host of the Faithful Fanatic Show, Turf Talk with my man Scotty. Check out DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media on YouTube, wherever you find your podcast. Dylan, what's up, man?
What's going on, fellas? The therapy group sessions are back. It feels good. It feels good. It feels like it's going to be another therapy group session. That's the vibe you're going to get from me tonight. So, Rob, I don't know if we're going to be in the same boat tonight or not. But yeah, man, it's been a while since we've gotten on here and discussed sports in general or the Eagles. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, DSM Media. Please go follow them on YouTube.
Appreciate
subscribe, turn on notifications, all that awesome stuff. You'll thank me later. I'm a little nervous about tonight because Rob and I are pretty much on the opposite spectrums of a lot of things here. So this could go one way and one way only. And
I'm the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I guess you are. We'll see how this goes. But let's jump right into the NFL Draft, guys. Let's talk NFL Draft. And the leading question here is like, what is in your view, the biggest position priority for the Eagles with their first pick? With their first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Lead us off, Dylan. Where's your head at right now?
Well, compared to what they're going to spend that 15th overall pick on and what the biggest need, in my opinion, are two different things. The two biggest needs the biggest need I see for the Eagles to fill right now is in the secondary, whether that be with a corner number 2 or a safety. If they could get their hands on Kyle Hamilton, I would love that. Sauce kind of seems out of the question at this point, unless they moved up for him. They might have to move up for Hamilton as well. But when you look at what they've done in the offseason, not that, they should not go edge rusher or not that they should not go linebacker. I'd love them to go after Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean, or obviously with the Ojabo injury that takes down his stock. But I just think the bigger holes are either at safety or corner compared to, let's say, linebacker, where you filled in with Amir White and Hassan Reddick, and edge rusher, the same thing with Hassan Reddick. So I think their biggest need right now is in that secondary position.
What about you, Rob? Any counters to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of agree. I would listen up until the Amir White signing. To me, it was going to be linebacker. I was going to scream linebacker from the mountaintops. But once they sign him, I still would like to see them use a pick on a linebacker early in this draft, preferably in the first. If, say, they get to 19 and say Devin Lloyd's still sitting there, like, I want them to consider it. But the first pick, the first thing they got to do is they got to go address that secondary. The question's going to be who's there. Maybe the question is, do they try and move up a few spots for a couple guys? I know I'm going to do what I did with Justin Jefferson, which I was right about, but that's besides the point. But, I wouldn't mind them if Derek Stingley's sitting on the board when they go to draft, picking a Stingley, Booth from Clemson, one of those guys. I don't know if they're going to be able to get a Kyle Hamilton unless they go really, have to go up quite a few spots.
Yeah.
So I don't see the Eagles, frankly, I don't see a lot of teams going up that far for safeties. It's just not, it doesn't seem to be the MO of NFL teams. But to me, you've got to address the secondary probably in that first round. We talked about linebacker, and I do think they need an edge rusher. If for any other reason, then Derek Barnett is just a bench player and not actually part of the rotation. So, and I know I just read that The kid from Purdue, I don't even, how do you pronounce his name, Dives?
George Karlaftis.
Karlaftis. It did an individual workout with the team, so I think he is very, very much in play for this squad. And, I don't think that would be a bad move either because, like you said, Reddick's going to play a little from that linebacker position. I think he's going to be like Gannon's Joker. I think, where Gannon tried to do that with Jannard Avery a little bit. Obviously, Hassan Reddick's a much, much better player. And, you got Brandon Graham's getting older. And then outside of that, you got Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett. So, I mean, we can't just ignore that position either. So I'll go secondary and then edge rusher. But I also would not mind seeing a linebacker go in the first round.
Yeah, I look at, the premier talent in this draft. And the class is the edge rusher position. Hands down. Like, you look at the cornerback position, Sauce Gardner. We're going to be talking about him a ton moving forward. Love that kid to death. But I think the depth and the talent at the top of this draft at edge, I would be so disappointed if the Eagles do not get one of these top-notch pass rushers. Trey Walker, Jermaine Johnson, George Karlaftis, Hutchinson, Tibbs. Those guys are out of reach. You're not going to get those guys, obviously. But those three guys I just mentioned are 3 down starters, pass rushers in the NFL. You look at the sack percentage of the Eagles last year, major dips. And I agree, Hassan Reddick is going to add a lot of dynamic there. But I'm not sold on Brandon Graham's age. I'm not sold on Josh Sweat. I'm not sold on Derek Barnett. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of age on this defensive line. For me, it's edge rusher. I need to get this Eagles team back, literally getting back into that backfield for me. So missing out on one of those guys would be absolutely devastating. I've been really high on all 3 of those guys. It's really sucked kind of watching these guys go up and ascend the draft boards because that's how talented this group is. I would not be shocked to see 5 guys taken within the first 15 picks. That's how good this class is. And you gotta get that. I'm tired with rotational guys. I'm tired. Give me a bona fide guy that can get it done in the pass, attacking the quarterback, but also stopping the run. Then we need to get stars. We need to get stars on this line. Brandon Graham, I don't know how many years he's got left. Fletcher Cox, that includes Jordan Davis too. I'm gonna just generalize that to defensive line. I want stars on the defensive line. So for me, it is the defensive line. Let's roll on to our next question of the night. And that is, should the Eagles have prioritized a veteran wide receiver more, or are you okay with drafting another one in the first or second round? We are leading off with Rob on this one because this is where I might have to lead the show.
Listen, okay, everyone listen. They don't have the adult in the room in the wide receiver corps. They don't have an adult in the room. Don't give me Zach Paschall because Zach Paschall is like that from Jalen friggin' Reagor. And how do you know? Because when Nick Sirianni describes him, what's he talk about? Great blocker. Great. That's fantastic. Terrific. I'm glad you've added another great blocking wide receiver for us when we need guys that can catch passes, that can do things with the ball. I believe they needed a veteran wide receiver. Hence, why they tried to trade for Calvin Ridley. My point of all this is, if you try and trade for Calvin Ridley, you're telling me your plan B is, let's draft another 21-year-old kid and just like, I want a veteran. Look, your lead receiver, Devontae Smith, at the end of the season said, we need a veteran wide receiver to come in and help us out. Now, I'm not saying they should have traded 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying they should have paid Christian Kirk the money that Christian Kirk said. But all I'm saying is there are veteran names out there that are better than Zach Paschall. And I would have rather seen them prioritize that because what does it say when your team, say they do this, we don't know if they will, but if for the 3rd straight year they draft a wide receiver in the first round, is that saying they just want to stack up the talent at wide receiver? Or is that saying they are just shooting friggin' darts and sometimes they end up with Reagor and other times they end up with Smith? So that is why it's not that I'm against picking a wide receiver. It's that I need a veteran presence in this locker room that is going to be a leader and be able to teach these guys, even if he's at the end of the career. You know, sometimes you need that presence in one of those meeting rooms with a positional group. And I just would have rather have seen them do that. But obviously it's not going to happen now. And when you have idiots like Landry out there saying, oh, I wanted $20 million for the season, like a dumbass, like I understand why they don't do that. But I would have rather than prioritize there. That's all. You don't have to leave the show, Dibes. I'm just saying I would have rather it been.
Do it.
Oh, Rob, we're 2 for 2 here.
Yeah.
They're throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks when it comes to wide receivers in the first round. I'm not against it either. Obviously now they need to. That's the position they put themselves in. And no, you don't give Christian Kirk that kind of money in free agency. And you know, we can argue what the picks were for Tyreek Hill. 5 sounds like a ton, and then the contract, but well, that's another discussion. But yeah, they put themselves in a hole because, like Rob said, you needed a veteran wide receiver in that room. And not just that, to me, it's the type of wide receiver as well. I don't need a, speedster slot wide receiver that can get down the field. You already have that. You already have a couple of that, actually, right? I wanted a big body possession veteran wide receiver in this room. DJ Chark's name was thrown around a lot. I would have loved DJ Chark here. Obviously, Allen Robinson signed with the Rams. I would have loved him here as well. But yeah, I would have definitely preferred veteran wide receivers. It's where they're at now, and it's because of their past failures. It's because of that Jalen Reagor pick. It's because of that J-Jaw pick that they have to keep picking in the first round because they keep getting it wrong year in and year out. Now, they hopefully righted that ship a little bit with Devontae Smith in last year's draft. You have to hope that the shit sticks again this year, and they get it right this year.
Right. Go ahead, Dibes. Dibes, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Ah, bad, man. Quentin says, I agree with Rob. We could use a vet to school the young wide receivers. I agree. But I think this one depends on your expectations of this season, what we saw last year. I think, context is so important. This is a team that threw the ball 50% of the freaking time. Rob, that's dead last in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's dead last in the NFL. Juju, Calvin Ridley probably didn't even want to come. Like, this team just runs the ball. That's what we have. We also have a giant question mark at quarterback. We don't even know what we got there. Why would a top prize free agent wide receiver who wants to put up stats go to the Philadelphia Eagles? Like, it makes no sense. So it's always been, for me, like for months, it's always been preparing for the draft, which is, I think this wide receiver class is absolutely stacked. Absolutely stacked. I could put my top 10 in probably the top 2 rounds easy. I could probably put my top 5 wide receivers in the top 20 picks. That's how good this wide receiver class is. It is stacked. So I don't understand. I guess it depends on your expectations and context. I had no expectations. I agree, Zach Paschall ain't it. And we're going to get to that when we talk about free agency. Yeah. But for me, like, this team needs talent. We need to add talent, and you're going to get that here in the first round.
Right. And I'll just piggyback and I'll say, I don't have expectations for the season to go anywhere, but I also don't want to see you run it back, which is basically what they're doing with a team that went 9-8, very average, better than what we expected, very average. But when they got to when it mattered, you had a defensive coordinator literally just say, I know what they're going to do, and they can't do anything about it. My point is, these receivers need to learn. So even if you're signing a guy who maybe is at the end of his career, right? But he wants a one-year deal to try and come in and prove that he could still play and be a mentor to young receivers. That's what I'm talking about. That's, that's why I would have rather them taken a chance on one of these older guys that may have some injuries with them, but that that they were great at one point and they can mentor your young receivers, and then go use a second or third round pick, because like you said, the wide receiver class is deep. That's all I meant. Like, I would have, look, I know people are going to say, you're an idiot. I would have rather you spent the money you spent on Zach Paschall on a guy who's still sitting out there and Julio Jones than spend it on Zach Paschall. Because Zach Paschall does nothing for Zach. If I'm Devontae Smith and Zach Paschall comes up to try and teach me the game, I'm going to tell him to shut the hell up, and I'm going to Will Smith his ass back to wherever I have to Will Smith his ass to. Yeah, I mean, like, see, that's all. So, like, I get what you're saying, but if the draft class is that deep, use a later round pick there, but have a veteran here to teach these guys what it takes to be great in the NFL.
Yeah. I just look at it like I'm not going to fall into that Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson thing either. Like, I'm going to get the best talent. I'm going to get the guy. It doesn't matter on fit. You know, I learn from the mistakes. I'm not going later round. I'm going to get one of these top guys in the first round. Like, I agree, edge and cornerback is a huge need for the Eagles in the first round. But if a guy available for the Eagles in that first round area, do not hesitate whatsoever, man. These guys are so good.
I'm with you. But my question is, are the Eagles with you? Have they learned from that? Right? So you just said,
you're talking about how deep the class is. Remember when it was the most historic running back class of all time? And we got the
like Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're –
But what you said is, you know, and it's not the draft, it's free agency, but about going and getting the best player available, the best talent, right? Don't worry about fit. They, you know, their free agent signing tells you that they haven't learned from that, because what is Zach Paschall? Fit.
I mean,
it's like, what Nick wants in this offense. It's another blocking wide receiver.
Can't wait.
He's
Can't wait to that first break crackback block.
He's a role player. Like, what do you think? Like, the percentage of offensive snaps this guy gets? Like, we're gonna get to that. I
mean, listen. As of right now, he's already at least the third best wide receiver in that room on the Eagles, and it's Zach freaking Paschall.
Yeah. And if there's any benefit, it pushes Jalen Reagor down, right? I think that's the big.
You've come to the dark side, huh?
Oh, I've been on the dark side for a long time. I had that reality check a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's roll on to our next question. All right, NFL draft. What are the chances the Eagles use all 3 first-round picks in this draft? Lead us off, Dylan.
0. 0% chance that they do that. I don't care what Jeffrey Lurie says. I don't care what Howie Roseman or Nick Sirianni say. They are not sold on Jalen Hurts. They are going to at least move one of those picks back into 2023 as insurance if he does not prove that he's the guy this year in 2022. Part of me, I understand it. Part of me likes it because I agree. I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy, so I don't think he's it regardless. But part of me says, you know what? Stop lying to your fan base. Obviously, they're not going to come out and just out the starting QB, right? They're not going to say they don't trust him, but stop lying, stop pretending. And if you're really behind them, go invest those 3 first-round picks this year and make this team a better all-around football team this year. But that's not the case. They don't trust them, and they're going to move that back as insurance. I hope they don't move 2 back, though. I at least want 2 of these first-round picks used this year, not next year.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I was going to go under 0% if that's allowed, like 50% chance. There's no way Howie Roseman's going to have 3 picks in the first round and pay the salaries and the additional year to 3 different players. He's going to at least try and get, into a later, try and move the pick to 2023. But here's the problem. I just don't trust Howie. All right, so say they do get to use 2 picks in the first round. Why is there that feeling in me that one of those picks is going to be a guy that's not even going to play next year? He's for the year after that when someone leaves or retires. Like, I'm telling you, the idea that they went into this offseason and said, we are going to go to the draft scares the shit out of me. Because, look, last year they had a nice draft, right? They had a lot of guys who played a lot of minutes or a lot of snaps this year. Good for them. But that's like one draft out of the last, 12 that was the situation. So I'm scared to death. Like, there's no way they're using all 3 first-round picks. I don't believe it at all. What I would love, not what I would love, but what I will laugh hysterically at is when they get an additional second-round pick and Matt Corral falls or Sam Howell falls and they draft them and we all just sit there and go, you're kidding, right? Like you're joking with me, right?
Stop. Don't, like, how dare you? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, Rob. That's my worst. Like, I'm not high on either of those quarterbacks.
No, neither am I.
I don't think I have a day two grade on those guys.
No,
I wouldn't touch them.
Nobody had a day 2 grade on Jalen Hurts either.
I was just gonna say, do you guys remember the reaction?
$25 million to your franchise quarterback, and he went. By the way, Jeremy Chin is like consistently in defensive player of the year.
I know. I was so high on Jeremy Chin.
Yeah, but we're okay, guys. Don't worry. But we still we still need a safety, maybe 2.
Rob, we were talking about the other day. We were talking about safeties and
Patrick Queen was that class too, right?
Yeah. How there's actually like several day 2 safeties that I think will be available, and the Eagles aren't going to touch them. The Eagles are going to touch. Like, there's some studs at safety in this draft in that round 2, round 3 range. But I agree with everyone here. Like 0% chance, less than 0% chance. If there's anybody who loves punting it to next year, it is Mr. Howie freaking Roseman. But I'm not disagreeing with that. I do think it's a quarterback, have or have not league. Like you got to have that ammo to be able to get. If you're within arm's length of an elite quarterback in next year's draft, I'm all in. I'm 100% all in, man. It's the smart move.
Look, and I'd like to see it move around the board a little bit this year because you got 3 5s to play around with. Maybe you take one of these first and maybe you get a first, but say you don't. Maybe you could like find a way to get picks so that you could trade up and get an additional second round pick, right? Because I think the second round's got a lot of value. So if you can pick 2 guys in round 1 and 2 guys in round 2, I think that's right. We're talking about building talent. I think you should be able to get 4 pretty talented guys that you can get a read on pretty quickly. So I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely fine moving around the board this year.
Yeah, there's several teams with some pretty high, like late first round picks, early second round picks. I'm looking at, the Miami Dolphins. I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions. Like in a trade back, Eagles go back to 29, and there's a lot of different scenarios, but absolutely 0% chance. In negative 1,000% chance they stick with 15, 16, and 19. So. Let's move on to our next question of the night. What do you expect the Eagles to do in the first round? What's your predictions versus what you think the Eagles should do in the first round? Lead us off, Rob.
What I expect them to do is piss me off. No.
Oh man.
No. What I expect some sort of defensive line move with one of the picks. Listen, since Andy Reid was here, it's trenches. I do expect that. I'll be honest with you. This is what I don't want, but would I be surprised if they go with an offensive lineman if a guy's not at all?
This is my nightmare.
That's my nightmare scenario. Like, I'm not, once again, not what I want them to do, but can I see them doing that? Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. What I want them to do is defense. I would love to see them use all 3 picks, right? And at least 2 of them be defense. And then if one of these stud wide receivers is there, perhaps one of the guys has a little size to him to kind of counteract what Devontae Smith does. Hey, I'd be all in for it. I don't expect them to use all 3, though. Like, that's what I would want them to do. I'd want them to use all 3. Now that you're in the situation you are in wide receiver, go one with the wide receivers, got a little size to them, and then give me 2 defenders, secondary, and either defensive line or linebacker. I mean, I love the defensive lineman. And I feel like you know better than I do, Dodge. You could speak on this when you talk. I don't know how big of a drop-off there is between first-round edge rushers and second and third-round edge rushers. So, I mean, that would play into it for me. But I need defense. And if you're going to use all 3, hey, use one on a wide receiver. I'm totally game for that.
There's definitely a drop. Like once you get after Jermaine Johnson, Trey Walker, and George Karlaftis, then you get into David Ojabo, who is probably like a second-round pick right now with that Achilles injury.
Sidney Rice.
Then you get into like Drake Jackson, Kingsley Enagbari. You get into Myjai Sanders. These guys are rotational guys. So there is definitely a drop off.
Yeah. So you probably have to go with one, like, because I love the 2 defensive tackles from Georgia. So, like, if they by some chance went that route, I wouldn't be that upset because they can play now, but you also know that's a pick for after this year when Fletcher Cox is probably no longer here. So you got to think about, like, the defensive line, I think, is a sneaky, not many, we're talking about it, but I think people think, like, oh, it's the Eagles defensive line. A couple guys are getting on that line and they're going to be gone. So if you use a first round pick there, just make sure it's a guy that can play from day one, but is ready to go as the lead, one of the lead guys next year.
What about you, Dylan? Where are you?
I met Sidney Jones as in how he's going to take Ojabo in the early.
There's no doubt in my mind.
And risk that again. I don't know if I'm for it or not, but listen, me and Rob could never be like co-hosts on First Take or anything like that because all we do is agree. I'm in the same boat as Rob again. I would love for them to use all 3 draft picks and either go defense, 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 or defense, defense. One of those stud wide receivers, if Chris Olave or Jahan Dotson or whatever fell to them at 19 or whatever. That's not going to happen. They're going to have 2 draft picks because one's getting moved. One's going to be defense. One's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to shut my TV off and I'm going to drink heavily because I can't do it. Part of me hopes that Howie figured it out last year, like the Devontae Smith pick. I know not everyone was on board with moving up and doing that with what the team needed. I loved it, right? And he finally, it seems like he hit on that splash pick. Maybe he's turned a new leaf. Maybe he's learned. I highly doubt it. And so what I want them to do, defense, 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 secondary, linebacker, edge rusher, maybe linebacker, double dip in the secondary. I don't know. They won't. One's getting moved. One's defense. One's on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, for me, what I want the Eagles to do is obviously I would love a slight trade up. Like, imagine the world of Ahmad Sauce Gardner just slipping just a little bit into that 9-10 range, and the Eagles trade like a 4th rounder, a future pick, and they move up and get Sauce Gardner. I would absolutely love that. For me, I still stand by it. I want one of these edge rushers. You got to end up with one of these guys, and I would be 100% like Rob said, like okay with getting Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt, an interior defensive lineman, given Fletcher Cox and his restructuring of that contract. You got to add to this defensive lineman. It was just not good enough last year. And then you go cornerback. You look at Sauce Gardner, but after that, you've got Derek Stingley Jr., you've got Andrew Booth. Trent McDuffie's an interesting player, but I see him more of he doesn't have arm length. And I think all the Eagles reports early on is they like guys like Khair Elam. Maybe you trade back and target a guy like Khair Elam out of Florida who's 6'2" and has length for days. They met with Khair Elam recently. So for me, I would love to target edge and cornerback at the top and then probably trade out. I think that is just a dream draft for the Eagles. It sucks not having all 3 first rounders, but how he's going to just, keep prolonging his, he already got the extension. So what does it matter? But here we are. So
I can't. I know you brought up McDuffie. I can't do anybody from the University of Washington anymore.
I know.
Sidney Jones or Markel Fultz. I can't do them. And everyone's just say, "Oh, what about Matisse?"
There's 2.
Yeah,
you have 2 chances. Kyler Gordon, too, out of Washington is interesting.
Everyone's going to say, "Oh, what about Matisse Thybulle?" I don't know if anybody watched a game last night, but
2-point Matisse Thybulle.
He took.
He didn't even get on the court, man.
He can't. Listen, people can hate Doc. You can't put that man on the court right now. He's Ben Simmons, only worse.
Remember when Matisse Thybulle was untouchable?
Come on, man. Come on. But what I think that's the likely scenario is I would like the Eagles to trade up and get their guy, whether that's Trey Walker, whether that's Sauce Gardner, whether that's Jermaine Johnson. Get a stud. Get the best player available. Get stars on this defense.
Just imagine if the 19th overall pick passes by, and like Nakobe Dean, Andrew Booth Jr., and one of those edge rushers are all in midnight green or Kelly green soon. that's a hell of a night.
Dude,
Hell of a night.
I have dreams of, adjusting, like Rob said, like defense. Like there's nothing I would love more than watching a young defense grow together. You know what I mean? That would just, I grew up watching the Jim Johnson days, man. That would be an absolute blast rebuilding this defense. But is it a defense league anymore? Like, it's an offensive driven league.
You know what this year feels like? They trade up and we all have a player in mind and they draft Jerome McDougal like they did the 1 year, or they draft like the year that everybody thought they traded. I mean, granted, Brandon Graham, I know what he's done, but everybody thought that trade up was Mr. Earl Thomas. And it was like, no one knew, Danny Watkins, like, is this the year they take one of those guys where we're just like, oh my God.
It's offensive line. If the Eagles take offensive line in the first round, I'll be flipping tables. It cannot happen. And I was actually, I just released my interior offensive line rankings a few days ago, and there was like legit like several guys in that round 2, round 3 range that I could easily see how we take it. Easily. They're like guys that can play all over the line. They're monsters, great upside, screaming how he picks. But anyway, let's roll on. Chris R says Andre Dillard is from Washington too. John Ross with the record 40 time went to Washington as well. We're not talking.
Dillard was Washington State though, I think.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Let's break down into favorite prospects in the first round. Why don't you lead us off, Dylan? Who? Do you have a couple targets?
Yeah, man, literally anybody on the defensive side of the ball that the football people or the scouts are telling you about. Like, don't be the smartest man in the room. Don't Jalen Reagor the defensive side of the ball this year, right? If Devin Lloyd's there and you're going linebacker, if Dean's there and you're going linebacker, you take one of those two. You don't take someone else. If you're going corner, let's say Sauce is the only one going, and you go with Booth Jr. or you just
Derek Stanley Jr.
Yep. Like, you go there. So outside of that, I don't have any high, hopes for this. I just hope that if whatever position they go with, I hope that they listen and that they take the best player available or one of the two best players available, and not, like Rob just said, go completely outside the box, the 4th ranked prospect at that position group with the 16th overall pick. I'll lose it. I will lose my mind.
The name that like screams that to me is Boye Mafe. He's an edge rusher.
I don't want to say his name. I don't even like his name.
Like,
I
saw that in the mock, and I was like, dude, that screams like Howie. Like, he's just
it does. But I don't want to say that name all year long. Boye Mafe. No, I don't.
Listen, this town has a tough enough time with names.
Yeah,
they don't need another one that they're going to just butcher.
Ready for Castellanos?
No, I can't wait. I freaking can't wait. I'll butcher that name all season long. What about you, Rob? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the name. Look, I like all the deep, but Devin Lloyd is the name for me.
Yeah,
sure. I love the idea of a linebacker that just plays nasty. You know what I mean? I just love the idea of the strong linebacker who could do just everything you ask out of a lead linebacker on the field. So he's certainly one. And then I don't know, maybe it's because we didn't get my Justin Jefferson, but I love the idea of Derek Stingley if he falls. I know the question marks that are out there about him, and how, like, it was, after that first season, it kind of, but I would love the idea of a Derek Stingley in the secondary, and watching him get to learn from a guy like Darius Slay over the next year or two as well. Yeah. So, like, if I have, like, there's other names too, but I'll stick with those two just for the sake of argument. Devin Lloyd, Derek Stingley Jr. If one of them are called to the Eagles, I'll be very happy on draft night.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner is my favorite. Yeah. He's in my top 5. That's how high I am on him. For me, Trey Walker is a guy I've been high on for a long time. I know he's like projected in the top 10 now, but in the world where he falls to like that 10 to 12 range, would love to trade up and get him. You saw the Eagles, bring in Hassan Reddick, a guy that Jonathan Gannon should be getting a little creative with. Trey Walker can do a little of the same kind of stuff. He can blitz the quarterback. He can stop the run, but he's 6'5", but has immense lateral agility. Can drop back into coverage. I think if Hassan Reddick is any indication, like the Eagles will be looking for guys that can hit all three levels and not only get to the quarterback, but drop back if needed. Hence, we saw kind of the Eagles looking into Devontae White out of Georgia. Devontae White is a smallerish defensive lineman, but the dude has lateral agility for days. The dude spies quarterbacks literally for Georgia. It's nuts. And he's 300 plus pounds. So I think that's kind of where Howie is leaning towards and getting Jonathan Gannon's kind of defense, the personnel he needs. Because let's be honest, they didn't have it last year. I love the Devin Lloyd choices, Matt. He's my number one linebacker. It's not going to happen, but talk about a safe pick, man. That's just a no-brainer selection, man.
Yeah.
Listen, God.
I was just going to say, anyone on Georgia's defense is like I feel about a lot of LSU wide receivers in the past. Like, I don't think you could go wrong drafting a top of the draft Georgia defensive. So the Kobe Dean, Jordan Davis, Wyatt, Walker, that defense was stout as stout could be. You draft a guy from that, they can play right away and they can make an impact right away. So I'm good there.
I think Devin Lloyd, like I said, I mentioned him, and then Rob, that's your go-to. And just think about the transformation of this linebacker room. If that pick is to be made, obviously Hassan Reddick's going to be used all over the place and going to be more of an edge rusher, rushing the quarterback type of role. But he's a linebacker. They invested in the linebacker room. Kaiser White, linebacker. Devin Lloyd. You go from what you had last year with Alex Singleton being the top linebacker, T.J. Edwards, Rashawn Bradley, and you go from them to Hassan Reddick, Kaiser White, and Devin Lloyd. Yeah, I feel a lot better.
All right, no hate on my boy Sean Bradley, please.
You got Reddick. You got a Temple boy.
I know.
Here now.
That's fair. Yeah, I had a Georgia Bulldogs podcast join us several months ago, and he was just raving about Devontae White and his leadership. And doesn't that scream like what the Eagles are looking for on the defensive line with Cox on the way out? Just screams Eagles. Another guy worth mentioning is Drake London. Sorry, another USC wide receiver.
Yeah,
he's 6'5". Yeah. He's a contested catch guy, and the ghost of J-Jaw still lingers because it gives Eagles fans shit in their pants. Literally. He's not. I agree. He's not the best, off the line, but he's got really quick feet. He needs clearly, a head coach that can get him moving. But the dude is just such an amazing talent. I think that's the most divisive wide receiver in the first round. He was my number one in my rankings. But Drake London is 6'5", just dominates. It's a mismatch league, man. You have a quarterback that truthfully struggles with accuracy in that intermediate to downfield areas of the field. Having a guy like Drake London is not only a great fit with Devontae Smith, but he is that X receiver downfield outside guy and he can play kind of in the backfield and in the slot that you need. So I think Drake London is a guy worth mentioning. Any comments on Drake London, guys? Have you seen him?
Yeah, I would be okay with it because I do feel whoever you draft from a wide receiver, don't just draft another small, speedy guy. Like, I think you got to get a guy with a little bit of size. Now, look, if he's got some speed, like I know that there's a lot of talk in the later rounds, the kid from North Dakota State, has a bigger body, but he's got a little speed to him. But look, if you draft me a big wide receiver that's got some skills that can go up and catch the ball, and you're not just going to tell me he's a good blocker, hey, I'm ready to roll. You know what I mean? I'm totally fine with a bigger wide receiver. And I don't know if it was the kid from Watson or if it's – but I always like a bigger guy if maybe you could throw him in the slot every now and again. When you have Quez and Devontae on the outside kind of giving you that speed flare on the outside. So I'm totally on board with that.
You said he's what, 6'5"?
Yeah, he's big. He's a big boy.
Well, if he can high point the ball and mask some of Jalen Hurts' accuracy issues down the field, then I'm all for it. That fits the criteria of what Dylan's looking for in a wide receiver to fit this team right now. And like I said before, free agency, I wanted a fit type of wide receiver, a veteran, big target, big body guy, possession guy. If that fits the mold, go ahead.
Yeah. He had the ghost of J. Jaw and the ghost of Nelson Aguilar there. Quinn says, I like to get an Alshon Jeffrey type wide receiver. And yet, lastly, before we move into free agency and grades, Treylon Burks out of Arkansas is an absolute beast. An absolute beast. You want a big body wide receiver, check him out. He has not only the size, but legit speed, legit A to B speed that you're looking for. So, and then Drake London has his pro day next week, which is probably going to, like that for me, that's like all invested. Like that is the event of next week. Because if Drake London runs the shit out of a 40 and shows great separation and great quickness, man, he's going to be a top 20 pick. He's going to be a top 20 pick. That's how good he is. But with that being said, let's roll into free agency here. Let's talk about some of the top signings by the Philadelphia Eagles, leading off with Hassan Reddick. Let's grade the signing out of 10. You look at his contract, 3 years, $45 million. Dylan, how would you grade this signing out of 10? What's your reaction to Hassan Reddick to the Eagles?
Well, going over the Eagles free agency, we're going to start at the top of the mountain right here with Hassan Reddick, and we're just going to find our way down at the bottom of the hill after this. But the Hassan Reddick signing alone, it's an A. I mean, the guy was he's number 4 in sacks over the last 2 seasons. He fits that Jonathan Gannon, role that they're looking for as an edge rusher / linebacker. I'm sure he'll be moved all around on both sides of the line. So it's an A. Obviously, him being a Temple kid and from around here, it was greatly needed. I'm glad they got the signing. I would hope that Hassan Reddick was not the only good offseason acquisition, though.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? How would you grade Hassan Reddick signing to the Eagles?
For me, it's 10 out of 10, and that's because as free agency started, when I started looking at guys that I wanted to see them sign, Hassan Reddick was one of the first names on the board for me. I thought he was a perfect fit, perfect need, schematically. He's a position that they were in dire need of after last year. And when it happened, I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is the start. It's going to be a really fun off season. Not thinking that they were going to be like some of the teams out there that just decided they were going to spend ridiculous amounts of money like the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I was like, all right, look at them. See, they know they got a plan. They're ready to roll. Because right around the time they signed him, it also came out that they had a deal in place for Calvin Ridley prior to the suspension. I was like, oh man, this team is going. They're all right. They didn't lie to us. They're going to try and build. So I love the signing. I love the kid. I think he's going to flourish here, and I'm really honestly, when you think about the money of that position, I think they got him at a pretty nice deal for the team as well as himself. So I'm very happy with that one.
Ryan says Reddick was an A++ signing. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was just an awesome signing. You look at the Eagles last year, 21st in pressure percentage, a blitz percentage of 16%. There's no excuses for Jonathan Gannon. They're going to add to this defense in the draft. Now you're getting guys that you can kind of put all over the field, be creative. Like we wanted this. We wanted this last year. Probably the bitter truth of this is the Eagles just didn't have the personnel to run Jonathan Gannon's defense. That's the glass half full perspective. So Jonathan Gannon here, you're on the clock. This is it, man. Hassan Reddick fits this guy, his defense to a T, wanting to do a lot of stunts on the defensive line and blitz off the edge. We're going to see if it happens because it did not happen last year. And if I remember correctly, when they did it last year, it actually was pretty effective. But they barely did it, as I just said. Like their blitz percentage was among the worst in the NFL. Let's roll on to Zach Paschall, the rascal. Wait, that's not it. What is this? Get out of here. There we go. Let's get on to Zach Paschall, 1-year contract with the Eagles. Rob, lead us off, man. Give some praise to Zach Paschall.
Yeah, I'll give him praise, all right. So after Hassan Reddick, I was like, all right, here we go. here we go. And then it was nothing. Then release Fletcher Cox. Then sign Fletcher Cox. Then release Boston Scott.
Extend Howie Roseman.
And then
hold on. You know what my response for the majority of this Eagles free agency was? Like, if I saw it on my phone and I was sitting next to Nicole, like, my first thought was you, Rob. I was like, Rob's not going to like this one. Rob's not going to like this one.
First they release Fletcher Cox, and I'm just like, okay, so there's got to – you're clearing cap space for a reason. You're going to make another move. And then they just sign him. So, okay, Fletcher's still here. And then they release Boston Scott. I'm like, okay. Then they sign him. And it's like they're just not doing anything. And then the first thing they do after weeks of nothing, you get Zach friggin' Paschall. Like, no. Like, all you did was draft an older version of guys you already have here that are not very good. Like, what did he have? Did Zach Paschall have, like, what 200 yards last year?
28 catches comes to mind. I don't know if that's correct, but that number
28?
comes to mind.
28 catches. Well,
I don't know.
Look, I guess it fits the bill here with receivers that just underperform.
How many, Dives?
No, I don't know. I do have one stat, but I'll wait for it.
No, this is a 1 out of 10 for me. It's not going to go any higher.
It's a 1 out of 10.
And look, I'm flat out going to say, listen, everything I say negatively about the Philadelphia Eagles in this offseason, I hope more than anything in the world that I got to come on this show and say, hey, I was the asshole. I was wrong. They knew what they were doing. I want that more than anything in this world. Don't think it's going to happen, but it's what I want. But no, I'm not excited about this. Actually, I'm angry about this. So, like, I would have rather, if you were going to sign a receiver from the Indianapolis Colts to be on this team as a veteran presence, I would have rather you signed T.Y. Hilton than Zach Paschall. How's that sound?
This signing was the, like, literal definition of, like, Rufus says Zach Paschall's definition of, yep, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Brian says Reddick will be out all over the Eagles defense. The Eagles need a linebacker. Give me Lloyd. Give me Nakobe Dean. Make the linebackers important again. You know that's not going to happen. Sorry, Ryan. That's not going to happen under Howie's regime here. What about you, Dylan? What was your response?
I got the 8 right, but it was 38. He had 38 receptions last year.
Wow. He was almost to 50.
384 yards and 3 touchdowns. As far as excitement level, this gets a 0 out of 5-star rating. I won't give the move overall a 1. I don't know what to give it. I'll give it like a 3, a 4. I don't know, because Zach Paschall to me already becomes the 3rd best wide receiver in this poor wide receiver room, possibly the 2nd, because I have no idea what Quez Watkins is. But with that being said, in terms of like what Rob was talking about, you started off this free agent period, this offseason period with a bang, with a great Hassan Reddick signing, gave it an A+. You were linked to almost having Calvin Ridley if it wasn't for 2 bad parlays. And now we're sitting here, time, Zach Paschall. And it's just, it's such, you call it a Howie Roseman move. It is. It's also just, it's a Nick Sirianni move.
It is a Nick Sirianni move.
It's Nick Sirianni's boy from his time in Indy. He fits his scheme with his running offense, and he's a great blocker, and I'm sure he's damn competitive. I'm sure he plays rock, paper, scissors really well. I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, Rob.
Nice. I just have to put this out there. 38 catches, 384 yards. That's I believe he played in all 16 games. Maybe he missed 1 or 2. Julio Jones played 10 games last year. He missed 6 games, right? Injury prone. We don't need him. He had 7 less catches in 6 less games, but had 40 to 50 more yards than Zach Paschall. So once again, I'd rather spend the money there than here. That's it.
Yeah, this has like all the makings of like the new Reno Mahe under Andy Reid. Like, Paschall's going to be here for a long, long time. That's
God.
That's the vibe I've got. So the stat I have for you guys is of his 85 catches in 2020 and 2021, 58 of those were first downs. 58 of those were first.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He immediately becomes wide receiver 2 or 3 right now.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Poor man's Jason Avant, and by poor I mean
That's what I'm saying. So that if there's anything to take out of this, the Eagles' best wide receiver last year at catching first downs was Devontae Smith, 67.2%. That was 13th best in the NFC. That's not good. That is not good. So the fact that you're bringing in a guy that can maybe, make an impact play there on third down, which the Eagles are really good at last year. So maybe that's something. Maybe I'm just like,
I agree with Ryan.
I'm really digging, guys. I'm really digging.
At least, if anything, it just makes one of these horrible first or second round picks of the last couple seasons out of the room. Like Jay Jaw, hopefully this means him and his umbrella are gone.
Your optimism is adorable, man. Never lose that. Never lose your optimism.
I'm normally not that optimistic. It must be the off season. It must be draft season. It must be Philly's offensive lineup. It's Philly's offensive lineup, man. Give me all the homers. Give me all the dingers. All right, let's roll on to our next signing, and that is Amir White, 1 year, $5 million. Dylan, how would you grade it out of 10?
7 or 8. 8, I guess. It's a B signing. I like it. It fills a hole. It fills a need. Pretty cheap. Kid was active last year in LA. I forget how many tackles he had last year and what he ranked, but he was active around the ball a lot. He's one of those guys that can kind of drop back into coverage, had a couple interceptions and fumble recoveries last year for them. So hopefully he can cause some turnovers. So, I mean, it's cool too, because you got the Reddick signing, which is that edge rusher type of linebacker. Now you filled another hole with that drop back kind of coverage linebacker. So it's a B signing. I like it. It's not something I'm over the top about, but it's a good signing.
What about you, Rob?
I'll be honest. Listen, I'm going to give it like an 8 or 9, and I'm going to do it because this guy had 144 tackles, I think what it was. He led a Chargers defense that had a lot of talent on it in tackles last year. The kid's kind of made a name for himself, and I think getting him where they got him, getting him for the low price tag, gives you – let's put it this way. It makes it so that you don't have a need in the first round to draft the line. Now, if you want to go best player available, then hey, still draft the linebacker, but I like linebackers that will make plays. Amir White makes plays. And I'm happy with this. I'll go with like an 8.5, probably an 8.5. But finally it looked like between him and Reddick, they actually address linebackers.
Rufus says how he's going to draft Logan Hall, Tyler Linderbaum, and David Bell in the first. I do like Linderbaum, but you don't do that. You cannot do that at 15, 16, or 19, and then Zap in the second, man. Man, the haters, the Howie haters, we're getting close to the draft season, man. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, I'm a hater.
I'm right there with you, man. To give him credit, he's had a pretty good last draft here. I think Amir White is a really good addition. My first reaction was like, he's an ascending talent. Well, he's 26 years old. He's kind of a linebacker safety hybrid that clearly fits with the Eagles. And I was like, why did the Chargers let him go? I'm not going to pretend like I watch Chargers football. I kind of dug deeper and saw all the kind of signings that's been going on down there. So I like it. I like this signing a lot. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I'm all aboard. And the linebacker that I have been all over in this draft is Chad Mumma out of Wyoming in that day 2 range. You know what else he was? A former safety, now linebacker. And that just screams, you bring on Amir White, and a 1-year deal. You draft Chad Mumma in that day 2 range. Now you bring him on slowly, Chad Mumma, to fill in as that new leader there at linebacker. So just an interesting name to keep an eye on. Let's roll on to wrapping up the show, and that is putting a bow on the Eagles free agency. Dylan, lead us off, man. How would you grade this Eagles free agency?
Well, I'm very disappointed that we didn't talk about their latest signing, and that's where I'll wrap this show up with. They have a D at the moment, simply in large part due to the fact that they re-signed Derek Barnett.
No. I refuse to acknowledge that. Nope.
Well, it's there.
$14 million says you better acknowledge it.
It's there in black and white for you, and it's a D. They have a very good signing, a good signing, and then a whole bunch of nothing. And not just a whole bunch of nothing, actually what could be some negatives to this roster. The Zach Paschall thing, obviously bringing back Derek Barnett, you brought back Greg Ward, you brought back Boston Scott. Like when are we going to switch things up here? Like when are we going to out with the old, in with the new, get new energy, new blood, new locker room, and we just keep running it back? And that's something I can't see them do. This draft is incredibly important for me, but in terms of free agency and this offseason, they have a D so far because they haven't done much outside of an Hassan Reddick sign.
Damn. What about you, Rob? Here we go.
D, and the only reason it's a D is because of Hassan Reddick. The only reason it's a D and not an F is Hassan Reddick. Nick Sirianni said this week, Derek Barnett is everything you want in a guy on a football field. Nick Sirianni is the guy we all read his lips when he said it's always him. No, he's not. He's everything you want in a freaking migraine. That's what he is. He is an idiot. I mean, flat out, he's the Adubel Herrera of football. A stupid player. Okay? He's stupid. All right? And I don't understand that signing. I don't understand running back certain position groups the exact same that you had last year. I don't understand how both of your starting safeties go into free agency and the only safety you sign is one of them. I don't understand these things. It just doesn't make you have an opportunity to start anew. And I just feel like I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And look, I'll say it again. Howie, make me eat my words. Make me call myself all the names in the book. But right now, very disappointed. And frankly, I'll be honest with you. And look, it didn't matter because, he didn't want to come here. But I'm tired of this. We're fully behind Jalen Hurts when you were obviously in on every single quarterback that got traded. You can make every comment in the world. You were in on every single one of them. So, obviously, there's a problem, but you're not doing anything to – now you're saying he's our guy, but you're not helping him. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's, whatever.
Rufus says, when the best signing is a guy who is already on your team, it's a problem. John Jones says, questioning for your owner, Jeffrey Lurie, would you have given Howie Roseman the extension?
Oh, my God, that was the worst part of the friggin' offseason. They did nothing for weeks, and the first thing you hear from him is Howie Roseman gets 3 more years. He is the only general manager to be here for 3 coaches. He's fired 2 coaches.
And I'm pretty sure over his tenure as Eagles general manager, they have just about a 500 record. I get the recent success prior to 2020 with the 3 straight.
One legitimate successful season. Let's not lie.
Yeah. And I've never seen anything like it. Like we just said, start anew, bring fresh blood in. I don't understand why you're running it back with this guy in this position group. Well, it starts at the top, and you just keep running it back with management and leadership. So what do you expect to change in the locker room? Nothing.
Doesn't it feel like the Eagles are run like a small market team? You're not fooling anybody. Like Jeffrey Lurie, what are we doing here?
Think back to the draft room last year when they drafted Milton Williams. Now, look, I know the kid ended up playing well, but when they drafted him and how he's trying to high-five everybody, and he goes up to one of the senior scouts, and scout refused to high-five him. There is an issue, and it ain't on the field, first and foremost, guys. And you just gave the issue 3 more years. So what? If Nick Sirianni stinks for the next 2 years, he gets to fire another coach? Come on, man. Come on, man. This is absurd.
John says I would have waited till after the draft to give him the extension. I fully agree.
I would have given him the extension.
I agree. For some reason, it feels like Howie holds the power, and that should not be the case.
It's always been like that. It's always been like that.
Here's the problem. Howie's a weasel. He's probably got bad information on Jeffrey Lurie.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing that should make you even more upset and nervous. When Jeffrey Lurie retires, you think the analytics is bad now? When his son becomes the owner, that's what the kid does. He's an analytics kid. This is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It's like a less like dirty old man version of Jerry Jones is what Jeffrey Lurie is anymore. He's just a less dirty old man.
All right, let's wrap up the show. We're already an hour in. Dylan, where can we find you, man? What do you got going on over there at DSM Media? Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, man. So you can check us out at DSM_media on Twitter. The link tree is right in our bio, and we're on literally every social media platform imaginable. So you can check us out wherever you consume your content or podcast. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. We have merch out on TeePublic. That's at the top of the link tree, so check that out if you want to. There's DSM merch, but there's also Sixers and Phillies and Eagles merch on there as well. And we are a Philly sports podcast media group, if you will. We have double-digit shows now, I believe. We have about 10 shows that run about 6 days of the week. We have Flyers, Sixers, and Phillies post-game recaps, Eagles post-game shows. We will be doing a Phillies pregame show, and then there's like 7 other podcasts that go out throughout the week that are live. So, yeah, check us out at DSM_media on Twitter. And we stream live on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook.
At DSM_media. Check them out, guys. Please, please, please check them out. Go subscribe, follow, everything. Where can we find you, Rob? What do you got going on, man?
Well, first of all, Dylan, the Flyers post games have to be so much fun to
I don't do it. Luckily, I got my guy Parcero. He handles that. My man will do it. The Flyers are on the West Coast. Parcero will be live at 12:30 after the game.
God bless him, man. That's tougher to watch than paint drying.
Yeah, I don't watch the Flyers at the moment.
No. So right now, I know it's not Philly sports. I'm sorry, but I want to turn around. You guys see that wall back there? Everybody see that wall?
Oh, God.
Wall back there?
V's up, bro.
Listen, hey, I got no problem with Villanova, but there would not be a greater gift to me than for my Tar Heels, who I've been a fan of since I was a little boy. I had to get in a fight with somebody who told me I'm not allowed to root for them on Twitter the other day. And I was like, who the hell are you, dude? So if they were to end Coach K's last game at Cameron with a loss and end his career with a loss in the Final Four,
be awesome.
Oh, my God. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I'm thrilled. I never expected North Carolina.
Big Cup's good, man. Big Cup's good.
Listen, they've played unbelievable in this tournament. I didn't give them a chance at the Final Four, so it's one of the only times I'll say if North Carolina were to lose on Saturday night, I'm not going to be totally heartbroken because it's like we're playing with house money. Never expected them to be where they're at. But goddamn it, if they win, I'm going to be loud and proud.
On a side note, this might be the greatest Final Four of my lifetime.
Well, think about it. You got 4 blue blood teams in there, man.
Now you got my favorite college basketball team in it, and then you got one of, if not the greatest rivalry in all of sports possibly on Coach K's farewell tour, like you said. Unfortunately, Rob, listen, for your sake, I hope I'm wrong. For my guy Scotty's sake, who's a Blue Devils fan, I hope I'm right. I think the Blue Devils got too much.
No, I listen, I do not believe North Carolina has the same depth as Duke. So I think it's Duke and Kansas, unfortunately, because of the injury to the kid from Nova. It just hurt because both games are the same thing. Duke and Kansas have more depth than North Carolina and Villanova. And in college basketball, it's going to matter. Now, if North Carolina shoots the shit out of the ball like they have, anything happens. But anyway, tournament has been awesome. I don't know who's college basketball fans, but it's been really, really a great tournament. You catch me on Twitter just being an asshole at Philly_madness. I'm on there. I'm here with Dibes, giving him shit about Jalen Reagor most of the time. And, I'm looking forward. Oh, and by the way, Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, You proved how much you suck again by giving up everything you did. It's the first thing I thought. I'm like, wow, they are going to be They just gave fully guaranteed contract to a guy who's probably going to be suspended the first half of the season. So,
Yeah.
good job, guys.
I forgot about Rob's beef with Cleveland.
Well, we went full circle there.
What's
Full
the song?
circle.
What's the saying or what's the song?
It was like a woof woof or something.
Yeah,
like that.
woof woof.
Yeah. All I told him was all it does is rain every friggin' day there.
All right. So long story short, we were doing a watch party of Eagles versus Browns, and the Eagles were goddamn hard. Like it was horrible.
That was awful.
Yeah.
And the Browns, I think, were pretty decent at the time, record-wise. And Browns fans bombarded our watch party in the comments section, talking all this woof woof shit. And it was just hilarious.
Listen,
Rob went off.
I blame Corona and not the virus, the actual beer Corona for that night, because I'm pretty sure I knocked a 12-pack back watching that game, and I just started saying stuff, and I ripped into the city. I've never been to Cleveland. I have no idea what it's like. It could be really nice. I'm sorry, guys.
But the point was, like, the Eagles were awful.
Yeah.
The Eagles were an awful team, and Cleveland played terrible too. And they were pumping their chests about the win. There's no way.
Nick Chubb had like the most ferocious run of all of 2020 on the
Yeah. Who knew he pancaked one? Was it TJ? No, who was the linebacker? Was it Singleton?
It was one of the guys. It was
Who was that guy?
Man, I forget.
Oh my God, he was one of those guys you just ate.
The worst.
Oh, oh God, what's his friggin' name?
What the hell was his name?
From the
He just completely.
Nate Gary?
Nate Gary.
Yeah.
There it was.
I'm pretty sure Chubb just like threw him down.
Yeah, dude. I'm pretty sure a safety got ran over.
All right. Yeah, but my man Coyle gets married on Saturday, so hopefully, yeah.
Congrats, Coyle.
Hopefully the wedding has some TVs during the reception because I'll be watching the basketball 100%. I miss the Peacocks too. Rufus says, thank you so much. Thank you. Peacocks coach just took the head coaching of Seton Hall. Is that true?
Then listen,
That's awesome.
the night they lost to North Carolina.
Yeah, he already had a deal.
5 hours later, that was in the works from prior to the run. The kid,
I love it.
He went to school there. He took that team to the tournament. He was a leading point guard for them, and I love the way he coaches. Good for him.
We literally talked about that during that upset during the watch party. Dylan was there. That was awesome. That was so fun.
He became a
man.
superstar over this
He
tournament.
did, man. I'm so happy for him. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. Follow my man Rob on Twitter at Philly_Madness. He is Dylan at DylanJD98. Check out DSM Media at DSM_Media for all their amazing Philly sports content. For Rob, for Dylan, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.
Third down. Hurts keeps. Hurts cuts. Hurts has the first down. And Jalen Hurts. And it just put it away for the Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles select Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.